Okay, so what we started with in distribution is a binomial distribution and Poisson distribution, which we finished. In continuous distribution, we had three. We had the exponential, the variable, and the normal distribution. Okay. So what we are going to do today is we are going to do variable and normal distribution. So all of you should practice the numerical problem and also try to remember uh, the Poisson distribution or the probability distribution form. Okay, probably you can make a table out of it and try to remember it better. Okay? So what we are going to do today is the variable distribution. Okay? So what happens usually is that whenever you have got a very large statistical data, as I've said again and again, you really need to use some graphs and all to analyze that data. Okay, so that's why distribution plays a very important role. Okay, how the datas are getting distributed, that actually plays a very important role. Okay, and based on this we actually have the variable distribution, and it basically model, okay, the time to failure. Okay, I'll give you an example so that it's a bit clear. To model the time to failure, okay, of a device. So you basically, you can have an electronic device and it will last for, let's say, 100 hours, or how long it will last before it fails. Okay, so that is what is variable distribution is all about. Okay, so what usually the manufacturers do, okay, manufacturers identifies the probability. Okay, it's basically a probability of failure. Okay, of failure of a device after maybe at 1 year, 2 year, 3 years. Okay, 3 years, etc. So this is actually what is variable distribution is all about. So we'll actually see an example and probably it will be easy. So what is the application? So you basically have any kind of medicine and you know how long it's going to be there before it expires. So that's basically an application there. And engineering, of course. Okay, because devices are made, mechanical devices and all, and that's important, that how long it's going to last. It's also used in finance, and then climatology. Okay, and the different fields where failure might be a parameter. Okay, so there are certain parameters in this that we should know. One is called the scale parameter, and scale parameter. Then we have got something which we call as the shape parameter. And then what happens is, let's say if the quantity x, okay, let's say x is a time to failure. Okay, then what happens is we can actually write down the probability distribution form. Okay, so the probability distribution form would be something like this. You will basically have an x. Okay, it will depend on these factors. Okay, it will depend on these factors. It will depend on x, and it will depend on the scale parameter. Okay, and it will also depend on the shape parameter. Okay, and based on this we can actually write down a probability distribution form which is similar to whatever we have written till now. Okay, so what is happening here is this. Okay, if we look into the scale parameter, okay, the scale parameter is usually written as lambda, okay, or sometimes even beta. Okay, lambda and beta, and the shape parameter is usually written as k or alpha. And if we just look into the distribution curve, we basically have it in terms of k, okay, the shape parameter, and also in terms of lambda, the scale parameter. Okay, so you'll have an equation of this particular form. Okay, and the equation usually looks like this: 1 minus the probability distribution 1. Okay, it is 1 minus of x divided by lambda into k. So that's entire thing is to the power of e. Okay, so this is how the probability distribution looks for a variable distribution. So whenever you're doing any kind of numerical, you have to basically just look into this. Okay, you have to just remember the formula and then basically apply it. So since I'm talking about the application of a formula, let's try to solve a problem. Okay, and let's take this. Okay. Yeah. So let's look into a numerical. So we have a non-repairable device. Okay, it cannot be repaired after it basically gets expired. Okay, you cannot repair it. So we basically have this exhibits weighable distribution. So it is already mentioned that it actually exhibits a weighable distribution with characteristic life. That means it's going to last for that much hour, okay, of 1500 hours. Okay, that is the life. Okay, and it's given that k is equal to, so whenever I write down k, you can understand that that is nothing but the shape parameter. Okay, so the shape parameter is 0.75. This is already mentioned. Okay, question is, what percentage of devices, okay, should we expect to fail? Okay, fail, sorry, expect to fail by 100 hours. Okay, so this is the question here. Okay, and you know, if basically has got a characteristic life of 1500 hours, so what usually happens is that if you actually want to plot a graph, let's say if you basically just want to plot a graph, what happens is you can actually have a distribution curve. Okay, and it will look like a normal distribution curve, but then you have to understand what's the importance of this curve here. Okay, so that means that the device starts working and it keeps on going till 1500 hours. Okay, and then the chances of failure are there. Okay, so this is what is important here. So this particular part can be considered to be 1500 hours. Okay, and the shape parameter is k is equal to 0.75. So you can understand, depending on the shape parameter, this shape will actually vary. Okay, and that is what is the importance here. Okay, but anyway, if we just want to solve the problem, we have to look into what are the parameters that we have. So you see this is the time to failure. So this is the formula that we need to use. Okay, so let's see what are the parameters that are given. Okay, so what percentage of devices should we expect to fail by 100 hours? Okay, I think it's 1000 hours, because we're talking about 1500 hours is the lifetime. Okay, so there is a good chance that some of these devices might also fail by 1000 hours. Okay, it is the characteristic life. That means we are talking about an average life. Okay, if all the devices combined. So what we do here is we basically consider this x, okay, as 1000. Okay, I'm just not taking the units here because that's a parameter, and then lambda is equal to beta. So you know, lambda is equal to beta is the scale parameter. So how large is your scale? Okay, in this case we actually have it as 1500 hours. So this lambda is equal to beta would be 1500 hours, and then this k, which is equal to alpha, the shape parameter, is 0.75. So what we do now is we actually want to find out the probability distribution. So just take out p of 1000. You can write down the other parameters, but I'll just put it as 1000. 1 minus e to the power minus x, so it is minus of 1000 divided by lambda. Okay, so that is nothing but 1500. Okay, and multiplied by k, scale factor, so 0.75. Okay, so if you do this calculation, you can use your calculator. 0.5218. Okay, that's the value that you should get. Okay, so if you just want to conclude here, you can say that 52%, okay, approximately we can say 52% of device will fail, will fail in 1000 hours. So you look into this now. This is 1500 hours, that's the average, okay? Some of these devices might fail even before, and that is actually 52%. This 52% depends on what? This depends on K, the scale factor plays a very important role, okay? How the curve is distributed, that is important. This might not be the right curve, okay? It's just a representation of that curve, okay? So this is what is Weibull distribution is all about. We are restricted by time, because that's why we cannot take so many examples. So we'll probably practice one or two for each of these distribution, okay? Finally, we'll come to the final distribution, which is the normal distribution. And let me tell you, normal distribution is the most common statistical distribution, okay? It has been used for a very long time, okay? And it is something which is desirable for any kind of statistical distribution, for the simple fact that it gives a very clear picture of the uniformity of the samples that is being distributed, okay? We'll just look into this, okay? And every curve cannot be behaving in the same way. It depends on what kind of information you are analyzing. So most common statistical distribution, that is the first point, okay? So it basically have approx normality. So normal means something which is more normal, something which is natural in nature, okay? So arises in many social, physical and biological distribution. There are a lot of interesting information based on statistical data. You imagine, I'll give you one example. You imagine tossing 100 coins, and then let's say I want to know that how many will be head, how many will be tail. I can count it, and then probably, let's say for example, there are 75 heads and 25 tails. Then what I do, I toss 500 coins. Might be one coin 500 times. Anyway, it's the same. There I can see that the heads and the tail values will come closer to each other. Maybe I'll get 400 heads, 600 tails, okay? So in this way, if I keep on tossing the coin, let's say I now toss 10,000 coins. At some point, if we are using so much of statistical parameter, I mean so much of data, right? That means we are taking so many observations, let's say 10,000 observation. The chances are that you are going to get 50% head, 50% tail. Okay, so if you are getting a number of data, large number of data, the chances of success and failure both becomes more or less equal. Okay, and these things are more or less natural in nature. So if we consider something as normal distribution, this is something which is followed most of the times. Okay, so that is actually the reason also why we call it as normal distribution. Okay, so many statistical analysis requires the data to come from normal distribution. So sometimes even a calculation might be difficult because the data is not normally distributed, and then it becomes difficult. Okay, it is also having some other names, okay, known as Gaussian distribution, or bell curve. So this curve actually looks like a bell, so basically it's also called the bell curve. Okay, so I'm saying this curve looks like a bell, but I've not drawn the curve, so let me just draw the curve for you once. Okay, so it's this way. Why we are doing this? Because if you're in the future, if you're doing any kind of research, might be in any field, it's not only pure physics, might be in a field like let's say biology or chemistry. Okay, so you can actually work on different fields. So when you work on that, and if you get a large number of data, and these kind of analysis and distribution is very important. So this is a bell-shaped curve. It's not very well drawn, but I think you can understand it. Okay, I will just consider that this is actually symmetric on both sides of this line. Okay, so this is, let's say, the center. Okay, and there will be certain points here. Let's say I will consider this particular point and this particular point symmetrically on both sides. 68.26% of the data will lie here. 68.26%. This is not something which I am saying. It's like if you are having a normal distribution curve, okay, let's say you are having 10,000 observation, 68.26% of those 10,000 observation will lie in this particular region. okay, and that is what is the normal distribution is all about, okay. And then if you go further, there are a number of points here. We will actually just look into this, okay. If you consider this particular points, okay, you will actually get 95.44% values here. So as soon as someone says that it is normally distributed, these things you have to remember, okay. You can basically easily remember this, not very difficult. First point 68.26, then it is 95.44. There is some other points where it will go here somewhere, and there it will be 99% of the data which will get involved there, okay. And this curve will never touch the x-axis, okay, that is important again. So you can have different parameters along x and y, okay, and then depending on that you will have the normal distribution curve, okay. So please remember it in this way, and these values of 68.26 and 95.44 is something which you should know, okay. So let's just write down some more important points here, okay. There is something which is called the population mean. So just like the other distributions, here also we are going to write down some parameters, okay. So let's write down this population mean, okay. So population mean is again here denoted as mu. So you know mu is something which is very standard denotation of mean in statistics, okay. And then population standard deviation, and that's denoted as sigma, okay. And then we have to just write down the population distribution function, okay. So we'll just write down the population distribution function now. Population distribution function. So the population distribution function for normal distribution, okay, I'm not writing down normal distribution, we're discussing that only, is given by fx, okay. Just going to take one or two problems. This is not a simple one, okay. You have to just remember this. 1 divided by sigma. Sigma is the standard deviation. Root over of 2 pi. Pi is the same, 3.14. Okay. E to the power, okay, minus half, and then we have got x minus mu divided by sigma, okay, and this is whole square. This particular term is called the standard variate, okay. We're just going to look into that. And if you're basically having a standard normal distribution, okay, if you are basically having a standard, sometimes this value might vary, but in the simplest of cases, standard normal distribution, okay, this mu will be at the center, so will be at 0, and this sigma is equal to 1. That's the ideal case, okay. But then anyway, we are just going to look into some examples, and probably this will make it more clear. So this is one point, this is one point, okay. And one more point I'd like to tell is z. So this z that we have written is basically called the standard normal variate, okay. Standard normal variate. And this z is actually given by x minus mu divided by sigma, where x is the parameter which you are calculating for, mu is the mean, and sigma is the standard deviation, okay. You already know it. So you know, if you know mu and sigma, you can directly write down what is z, okay. So this fx can also be written in terms of fz. So that means that what can I do is I can simply write it down as f of z, okay, is equal to 1 divided by sigma root over 2 pi, okay, into e to the power minus half z square. So since I'm writing it down in terms of z, I'll just put it as f of z. So if you know x, you can convert it in terms of z, and then you can do your calculations, okay. So it's not very difficult, okay. Let's just look into this particular curve that I talked about in more detail now, okay. How is the standard distribution curve how does it look like. Okay, so I'm just going to look into that. So I'll just probably draw a bigger curve now, okay, so that we can actually explain it better. So let's take this. Okay, and now it all depends on how I'm drawing the curve, but let me just try to draw it better. So it's basically going to be symmetrical. So if I have it till this point, on the other side also it should be something similar. Okay, of course if I'm drawing it on screen spatially, it's going to be a bit difficult, but anyway you can just consider it to be more or less symmetrical. Okay, and there are different regions by which we can actually divide it. Okay, just like I said. So I will just probably use the lines here. Okay, so maybe this is one region on these two sides. Okay, and then I can take these regions, the other two sides, and then the remaining ones. Okay, so what are the values here? This is mu, this is the mean. Okay, this is where the maximum value should be. Okay, and distributed around the mean. This is on the other side of mu, so it is mu minus sigma. Sigma is the standard deviation, remember, and this particular point is mu plus sigma. So understand it in terms of statistics. If you're going to this particular point, you are going sigma away from mean on the positive side. This side it is sigma away from mean on the negative side. Okay, so if that is the case, this particular point would be nothing but mu plus 2 sigma. Okay, and this particular point would be mu minus 2 sigma. So if you just remember it in this way. Okay, and of course the percentage values, okay, is something which you have already seen. So maybe I can just talk about this. So this is one point to which you should know, and then maybe this, the other one. Okay, so if we just take it this way, from here to here, I'm not going to write down the exact value. I can just simply write it down. It is 68%, right? Just like the previous slide, 68% of the values. And if we just consider from here to here, okay, we actually have 95.5% of the value. Okay, so let me just write it down as 95.5%. and please remember these mu plus sigma and mu minus sigma. This is the variation that we usually have. Okay, and then if we just go further, okay, there might be some more points here, okay, which can be considered. And if it goes till infinity, you are considering all the 100% values. Some of these values might always lie outside. Imagine n number of alpha particles hitting a gold foil and getting scattered. If we actually try to plot a graph for that, we can get a normal distribution curve, but some of them might be scattered totally in the opposite direction. So these values will lie somewhere further from the mean, okay, because most of these values are scattered at certain angles. This is what we have already seen in our Rutherford scattering experiment, right? So what happens is this. So if you are considering other extreme values from here to here, maybe, okay, this will be approximately 99.7% of the value. Okay, so this is actually the normal distribution curve. Okay, so you have to please remember this. Okay, and these particular points that we have are basically called the points of inflection. So points of inflection you might have seen or checked in your maths. Okay, you might have already come across this term. So at this particular point, the value will start increasing exponentially. Okay, points of inflection. Okay, so try to remember these terms. Okay, and this is the curve shape. Okay, so or curve, or maybe I can just write it down as bell curve. Okay, so this is the bell curve that we have. Okay, so that's very important. So how do you find out the area under the curve? Okay, no, you basically have to use some tables. So if you take up any book on maths or statistics, you will see that there are certain tables at the end. Not all books have that. Certain books have that. Basically, that's the standard distribution table, normal distribution table. Okay, so use tables to calculate the area under the curve. certain values of z will be given, and then if you want to find out what is the area under the curve, you can get it in terms of this 99%, 68%, because I said it's mu minus sigma and mu plus sigma. What if it is mu minus sigma by 2, mu plus sigma by 2? What will be the value? How much percentage? So those percentage values can be found out using the table. Okay, the question is, if will I ask you a question where the percentage table might not be given and probably you have to answer? The answer might be no. Okay, I will probably mention the values. Okay, so you can use it directly. So you have to know the concept, that is very important. Okay? So let's do some numerical on this now. Okay, I'll probably give you two numericals for this. Okay, and you have to solve it, and then I'll give you some time to solve it like this. Right. So let's take one. If x, okay, is normally distributed variable, okay, it might be mentioned, might not be mentioned sometimes, okay, with mean equal to 30, let's say. Okay, you can use the symbols when you do your calculation, and standard deviation, okay, is equal to 4. That's the question. Okay, find probability, okay, of that normally distributed variable. It can be any variable. Okay, we're not mentioning what is the variable here. X less than 40. Okay, so that's the question, first question. Okay, and now let me give you one more question here. A radar is used to measure the speeds of cars on a motorway. Okay, you know, when you do numerical, you really understand what is the application of these distributions and so on. Okay, the speeds are normally distributed. You know, some of the cars will move very fast, some will move slow. Okay, but there will be some mean value, let's say 40, it will always be there. So basically the speeds are normally distributed with mean is equal to, so most of these cars are moving at the speed of 90 kilometer per hour. Okay, try to understand the importance and standard deviation of, so most of these cars will be 90 kilometer per hour, but then there will always be some standard deviation of 10 kilometer per hour. So maybe some of the cars will move at 80, some of the car will move at 100. Okay, 10 kilometer per hour. Question is, what is the probability that a car picked at random is traveling at more than 100 kilometer per hour? So when you say standard deviation, this is actually based on general observation, but then, you know, all the cars won't be moving within that range. Some of the cars will be moving even faster, and this is what you have to do. Okay.